I stopped him from killing Gordon. I wasn't able to nail him, though. He's become more slippery than ever, now that he has a playmate. In her own way, Harley Quinn's as crazy as the Joker. Today on the Comic Book Report, Batman, Mad Love, and other stories. Stick around and check it out. Greetings from Gotham, everyone. My name is Dominic, and you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're taking it back to a modern classic with Batman Mad Love from Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. For fans of the Batman animated series, those names should sound awfully familiar. And with the tragic passing of Kevin Conroy, I've had that series on my brain, so I thought I'd go ahead and read some of the comics by those same creators. So let's dive in. But first, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Paul Dini and penciled by Bruce Timm. The issues in this volume were published by DC Comics beginning in 1994. The volume itself collects the Batman Adventures Mad Love, Batman Adventures Annual Issues 1 and 2, Batman Adventures Holiday Special, Adventures in the DC Universe Issue 3, and material from Batman Black and White Issue 1. This standard size trade paperback comes in at 208 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a brief spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection as well as commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at today's collection. As I mentioned, this is Batman Mad Love and Other Stories. Right away from the cover material on this trade paperback, you can see the art style. It is Bruce Timm from the Batman animated series. That should be very obvious for fans of that. As you can see, the character models are exactly the same between this comic and, of course, his classic animated series. Paul Dini also being a writer here and the animated series, there's this level of continuity you get when reading this book that is absolutely connected to that animated universe. And as we finish looking at this back cover and begin the collection in earnest, I just want to provide some context for those that maybe don't know. The character of Harley Quinn is absolutely a cultural staple these days, it feels like, between her own solo movie, her involvement with the Suicide Squad, and just massive popularity in animated series I've been told about. But absolutely a big cultural icon at this point. She actually got her start not in the comic books, but in the Batman animated series itself. She then later was introduced into the comic book universe, and this is one of her earlier comic book appearances. This is such an iconic story because it provides kind of the first comic origin for this character, the character of Dr. Harleen Quinzel, who becomes, of course, Harley Quinn. And wow, is there so much to talk about with this little book. But before we get much further, if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I release a couple videos every week, so if you enjoy comic book graphic novels and collected editions, I'm your man. Thank you so much for watching. Getting right back into it. Like I said, this is such an early comic book appearance for the character of Harley Quinn, and it's really great to read an inside look into her origin story. For those that maybe haven't seen it, I also reviewed a collection called Harleen, which was kind of a prestige mini-series by Stepan Sajic. That was also a more modern retelling of Harleen's origin that is spectacular. I'll try to link to that video in the description here. But this is, in my mind, kind of the OG origin story for Joker's sidekick, is what she really initially is, sidekick, girlfriend. And we get to see it all play out in the pages of this comic, Mad Love. We get to see this girl who grew up kind of gymnastically talented, who eventually went on to be a psychiatrist, who got assigned to Arkham, and eventually handled the Joker. She eventually falls in love with him, sees him as kind of misunderstood and persecuted by Batman, and ultimately she kind of goes off the rails to help him and to be his kind of sidekick and love interest. She's kind of abused by the Joker, psychologically, mentally, maybe even physically. And so her character is pretty tragic here. In this story, she's so burnt out with Joker's seeming obsession on Batman and lack of interest in her, and she actually goes out of her way to try to kidnap Batman and kill him herself. only for Joker to find out and get super intimidated and angry. He actually slaps her, and anyway, it's crazy. Batman taunts Joker, saying Harley got closer than he ever did, and it's just this maddening little venture. And it ends with Harley kind of wanting to move past the Joker. She's in the hospital after this whole adventure, but then she finds out the Joker left her a little rose, and she's still into him. Anyway, it's kind of a weird, tragic story. You see some abuse there. So it is a little odd. It is a little odd to see. And these are pretty humble origins for this character. But they're absolutely memorable and done, like I said, in that style of the animated series, being penned by Timm. And the writing is very strong by Paul Dini as well. I think one thing to note that is a little interesting for fans of the animated series, while that show I believe can service like pretty much any age group, it has sophistication for adults, but it's packaged as kids television. I would say this comic itself is a little more geared towards adults or certainly older teen readers. Nothing too explicit, but there are a couple maybe more risque character models or how the females dress throughout this book that might be a little bit jarring for people that have only seen the animated series. There's a couple sexual references, and like I said, you have the Joker smacking Harley Quinn. There's some violence in some of the later stories in this collection, so that's just something to be mindful of, but nothing too explicit or crazy. And while Mad Love is the meat of this collection and the main draw, obviously, for people buying this, there are a handful of other great little adventures by this creative team that all feel like they could have jumped right out of the screen of the Batman animated series. We have a fun story with the ventriloquist and Scarface. We have another one that has Clayface, another one with Ra's and Talia al Ghul, another one with Entrigan the Demon, and of course the material from Batman Black and White that has the Two-Face story. So you really have almost like a collection of comic book short stories here. The Mad Love I would equate to closer to like a novella if we're doing kind of analogs to literature. And the rest feel like these little short stories, these quick little episodic little adventures in the Batman universe, especially the one we remember from the animated series. Like I said, overall, this is a really fun little book. There have been newer reprints than this. I believe that this edition might actually still be in print as well. I like this one because you get that classic cover that has some of the animated series style artwork from Timm. I think the more modern reprint of this has kind of an updated cover of Harley Quinn. But I'm sure it's all good. I do think that this is definitely one to recommend for fans of Harley Quinn or for people that want to know where to start with that character. Like I said, I would definitely recommend the Harleen kind of graphic novel they released a few years ago, as well as this collection here, Mad Love and Other Stories. If you're a Batman fan wondering if you should read or get this, this is what I would say. I do not consider this a classic Batman work. I think it's an excellent read, and I think it's a must-read for fans of the Batman animated series, or like I said, for fans of the Joker or Harley Quinn, or that medley with them and Batman. But it's more of a Harley Quinn story, especially Mad Love. I think it's definitely more telling of Harley Quinn and Joker than a necessarily great Batman story. He's definitely in it. He's instrumental for the plot, but he's almost kind of a secondary character. The focus really is on Harley Quinn, which it should be for a story like this. I think the follow-up stories are a little bit more Batman-centric, but I really found myself struck more by who was in these subsequent adventures than Batman himself. And even the Two-Face Black and White story at the end, that's not really at all a Batman story. So I think it's just important to know what you're getting with this collection. If you're a fan of the Batman universe overall, I would also consider this a must-read. But if you're looking for like a straightforward Dark Knight detective whodunit, grim action-adventure tale starring your favorite caped crusader, this would not be the title I'd recommend first. But for any completionists or fan of the animated series, people that like Joker and Harley Quinn, or just in general enjoy the Batman universe, absolutely pick up Mad Love and Other Stories. Between the art and the writer coming from that series, this feels like it was pulled right from television in the best way possible. It retains all of the narrative voice and the visual style I came to expect from that beloved show, and it spun it out in a great comic book medium. I honestly think with the emergence of how popular Harley Quinn is in pop culture, I don't think this collection is talked about enough, and it's absolutely worth seeking out. At the end, we have an afterword and some bonus features, some art, some covers, some pinups. Really great little collection here. You can still find it pretty affordably at the time of this video. Definitely a memorable piece of Batman history. Have you read Batman, Mad Love, and Other Stories? Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. How do you think it's aged? Do you think it holds up as a classic? Let me know in the comments, and now let's give this collection a grade. For showcasing the real dynamic duo of Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, while also exploring the origins of one of the more modern, classic Batman characters, Harley Quinn. The Comic Book Report is happy to give Batman, Mad Love, and Other Stories a B+. This is certainly a strongly written and illustrated piece of Batman fiction, even if Batman doesn't have the spotlight throughout this collection. The exploration of Harley Quinn's character and origins, along with all the other characters featured throughout the rest of this collection, certainly set it apart as a memorable one. If you're a fan of the Batman animated series, this is a no-brainer, must-read, must-buy for your collection. And for all others interested, give it a shot. You might just like it. And until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to give me a like and share this video with your friends. Until next time, have a good one.